Hey, hey, hey. How you doing? Welcome everybody to the Tarot Flow Show, the Tarot Flow Show where synchronicity is the star. I am your host, Alison Pickering, and I am, as always, so happy to be here today with my co-host, the adorable Kefri Skarabos from Stockholm, Sweden, the student of all things spiritual. Welcome, Kefri.
Thank you, Alison. Nice to be here as always.
It's nice to see you as well,
Thank
coming here from
you.
Stockholm, Sweden, where it is an autumn evening, and here it's an autumn afternoon. And from the UK, let us talk to our lovely guest today. She is an insightful communicator. I know this because I have seen her talking to the camera and to the recordings in a group that we both belong to, but we have never really had a chance until now to have a conversation together. So I'm delighted to welcome to our forum today, to the Tarot Flow Show. She's a peak performance coach. She is a public speaker. She is a lovely woman from the UK. Please welcome Lucy Dutton. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you, Alison. Great to be here with you and Kefri.
Thank you.
It's lovely to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your life, whatever you want to share with us in this brief intro time, Lucy.
Oh my goodness, life. Right. Well,
a big topic.
I think I've lived a few lifetimes in this life. Started as a dancer, so I danced professionally for about 10 years.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, and then I went into work at a natural health centre in London, and I was there for about 7 years, something like that. And then went into working with health and nutrition products, and then all of that included teaching and coaching, and then went into the peak performance coaching. So that is me in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, thank you so much. And in terms of mystical things and spiritual things and stuff like that, what is your experience and what brings you here today?
Well, I've had one tarot reading before, and I'm very much into the mind, body, spirit side of things. So guides, angels, connecting with your guides, doing automatic writing. So I follow along people like Mike Dooley, who brings Sarah Landon. You may well have heard of Sarah Landon, and I can't remember what her community is called, where she brings she has people speaking through her. Can't think what it's called. Anyway, so that side of things. So it's just fascinating to find out more about the tarot side of things, because I've only ever had one, and this sounds fascinating.
Well, we are honored to be your second tarot reading. You're almost a tarot virgin. That is our specialty. We will be gentle. Let's see what you're in for today as you subject yourself to the tarot flow. So we're so glad you're here, and we're having a chance to briefly meet you now. And we're going to unpack a random focus card, one of the 22 major arcana. You're going to give us a number between 1 and 22. And we're going to do that for the purpose of just seeing what all a single card can contain. We use the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. That's kind of an old traditional Mac Daddy deck. There are so many tarot decks out there. Do you have a tarot deck, by the way, Lucy? Yourself?
I don't know.
Oh, good. Well, it'll be our gift to you to send you a little parting gift after this show, so you can have one at home for yourself. And then we're going to do our reading, which is for your consideration. And so it's always for your consideration, because we're not really telling the future. We're just having an expanded picture of the now. If you think of the idea of our kind of going along our timeline, we're just moving through time, or our time is moving over us, depending on your preference. People have those two viewpoints according to the NLP. So whether we are moving through time or time is washing over us, there are moments where we have a chance to stop on the horizontal and take a look at the vertical. Take a look at what is available for us in any given moment in terms of the symbolism, in terms of our intuition, in terms of the voice of our guidance and things like that. And so the tarot offers us a chance to have one of those pauses, and this little moment of us three together is a moment for us to consider together the offering of these symbols, and then you can decide whether they're significant for you, whether this symbolism is a worthwhile conversation for you to have internally or externally with us, and then you carry it with you, and then you can kind of just gauge whether is this a useful thing, and often it is, to give us some perspective, if nothing else. And so as we go through this, we're going to, in our first part, talk about this major player, and this character, shall we say, is the Fool. And it looks like a picture. It looks like a picture of a man or a woman there, but it's really not a person at all. Let's always remember that the figures that are depicted in the majors and the minors are really all us. They are our spirit. They are the idea of a person moving through the lessons of this lifetime. And the majors are the big soul lessons. And they have a correspondence to the Kabbalistic tree of life. And this is our character. The 0 is the Fool. It's not his first go round. He's up on the top of a cliff. He's got this little animal saying, oh my God, what are you doing? Don't jump, because the animal is our instinctive, afraid self. And yet our spirit can override. Our spirit is willing, and so the spirit can take that purity of intent, represented by that flower, the memories of whatever they are from the past experiences on that wand slung over his shoulder, and then the animus, or the animation, the life force of Mars, represented in that lively feather on his head, and he's going to take that jump into the abyss. But that abyss is a higher level than the older peaks to which he had climbed, or she had climbed in the past. So there's this idea of constant movement and a constant cycling. And when they cycle through, they can kind of go through here. Let's vastly oversimplify the first row to say this is our internal capacity. This is what we come into a lifetime with, our internal education, our parents, the social mores and schooling, the relationships, movement and transportation, things like that. That's our first row. Second row, our friend Anne-Marie, she talks about this being the lessons of adulting. What are the lessons that we go through as adults when we are in our independent life, and that we have to master our passions, solitude, law, the fates, reversals, big changes that come through your life, balancing in tests, things like that. That's that middle row. And then the bottom row, I'll take us off for a moment here. That bottom row is like states of consciousness, where you could be very materialistic, and then you could have some kind of new thing come in and knock the lid off those preconceptions. Then you're left naked unto yourself. Then it's rather an emotional, moony journey. Then you can touch source and feel liberation. Then you have to march to a new drummer. Then it's another cycle over, and it's an ending and a new beginning. And so looking at this character at the end, that's our same Fool character. And it's the same as the magician at the beginning with the 1 wand. Now at the end, that magician has the 2 wands, because there's lessons having been learned. Look at the characters in the corner there. They're the same as that Wheel of Fortune, four corner characters, but now that's close up on the heads, because the books they had before, now that's been integrated. These lessons are learned, for example. And so all of these cards have little interesting symbols among them. So that's an introduction into our majors. Let me ask you, Lucy, as you look at those 22, and with a number between 1 and 22, what might be a good number for us to choose a card and pick it today to unpack it? What number between 1 and 22 appeals to you?
11.
Right down the middle. Okay, we like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And here's card number 11 is the Star card. This one makes, she is overrepresented in people's choices here. Everybody loves her. Let's see our Star card. And what we're going to do right now, Lucy, is we're just going to kind of give impressions and talk about what we see in this card. So let me put you on the spot. Are there any words or impressions, just kind of holistic impressions, that come to mind when you see this particular card?
Very much going back.
Answer, by the way.
You say again?
There's no wrong answers. Yeah.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say it's all sort of nature and very natural.
Indeed.
And very clear. The sky is very clear. It's seems like it's daytime, but it's got stars in the sky.
Ah, well noted. Well noted.
There's the mixture of night and day there. So they're the things that struck me with this card.
Lovely. I've never noticed that day-night mix, and that's very present here because the star really is about balance. As you can see, she's got the ewers of water pouring both into the waters of spirit as well as the waters of consciousness or of our waking consciousness. So that's represented by the earth. And then the unconscious is represented by the pool. You can see the concentric rings as she pours in there. And so there's that idea of a butterfly effect, and that even when we are awake, our unconscious is also awake. It's always on, so to speak. There is a lot significant in here. There are 7 small stars and 1 big star, creating an 8. It is card number 17 that numerologically becomes an 8. That's a card of strength. So there is, even though she is very bare and unguarded, she is still very strong. Look at her foot. Her foot is not sinking into the water. So she's not really a human. She's rather an angelic creature. What else can we see, Kefri, in the star card? What should we notice?
I've said it before. I call this card the magic of the universe, actually, because this is the picture of the magic that we can't understand, but it is always there, like a big mystery, actually. And that little bird up in the tree there is a reference to the phoenix bird, and also a reference to alchemy, and taking us to the mysteries of Egypt also. And it is also a sort of a alchemical scenery here, with all those pouring of water and energy. And the star sign that is connected to this is Aquarius, actually, and that is a very developing star sign. Aquariuses are very interested, curious, and very experimenting. So that is in here also, to want to know more and to use forces inside to understand the world and so on. And the symbol for this, connected to the Hebrew letter that is connected to this card, is a fish hook, actually. And it's a fish hook that we can lower down in the unconscious to get something on the hook, so to speak, and to take it up and look at it, actually. So that is going deep in this card. So it's a lot going on here, and it's a lot of positivism and things that can develop us, actually, when we are meditating with this card.
Thank you. Yeah, anything more come to mind as you hear us go on and on, Lucy, about all that's in this card?
No, I don't think anything else has come to mind.
Thank you. I'll mention one more thing, and that you'll notice that on the far right of the card, as she pours that ewer into the earth, that it comes down in 5 little streams, and that indicates our 5 senses. And we'll see that in a moment in the Pentacles suit. So let's take a look and take us back. So those were our major arcana, the 22 major arcana. And thank you for indulging in that little exercise with us. We're going to take a look now at the minors. And the minors, as you can note here, they have 4 suits. And we see the ace and the knight of each of these suits here. And as we look at them, we can notice that they're probably the ancestors of the playing cards that we use now for, Las Vegas and gambling and all that kind of stuff, baccarat and poker and gin rummy and things like that. You can see the ancestor of the clubs, the hearts in the cups, the spades in the swords, and the diamonds in the pentacles there. But if we take this for ourselves in the intent for the tarot with the Kabbalah, we would then flip these cards and turn them so that the wands are on the top. The next the cups, next the swords, and next the pentacles. And what does that mean? That means that the wands are the closest up to source, and that's where it's the intuition, it's the spark, it's our values, it's the ideas we get. We can't create them, and yet we receive them. we respond to them, and yet we can't really originate them. It's a little beyond us to originate our intuition. It comes to us. And often we are often running with it. If you look at that knight figure, it represents fire, what gets us going, things like that. And that's very, very high up in the Kabbalistic world, shall we speak. And it also represents if we had an idea that wanted to come into actual reality. So let's say we had that notion. It's a project, it's a business, it's a dream. We have to care about it enough. If it's going to come into fruition, we have to give it emotional energy. And so we're going to have to invest it with emotional energy. That's the energy of the cups. You can see that investment of emotional energy in that knight as he proceeds forward on his quest. Then if it's going to go anywhere, it's going to have to get planned out. And that's the rational function of the intellect. And that's more strung out and linear. That's making lists. That's a timeline. That's things like that. That's the swords. And you can see that our knight on the swords, he's got a mission. He's got an idea. He's got a notion. He's got a mission, and it's like wars are started off of ideas. And not even much more. And so finally that takes us to the earth sign. And so if something is going to actually come into the flesh and come into existence in our physical world, in the 3D, that's represented by the coins or by the pentacles, the 5-pointed star, like those 5 rivulets on that star card that we saw, represent our 5 senses, because those are our currency. Our body, our physical mind, our senses are the way that we figure out this world. Time is the software so that we don't freak out in the chaos, and time is our element, as our bodies are our medium or our currency. And that slow horse on the bottom with the knight there shows you that time is a slow medium. And it is implying also that you can see that there's a crop with agriculture. So there's that implication of that crops take time to harvest. Humans take 9 months to gestate. We have things take time to manifest, and that is our medium. And so we operate within that. So these are our suits. As we look at the wands, we can see the 1 through 10 here, and the court cards, the page, knight, king, and queen, full of fire signs, fire symbols, salamanders, sunflowers, fire, lions, deserts. Our cups here, emotion, watery sign, lots of water symbols in the court cards, lotuses, fish, shells, different bodies of water. Here are our swords, that intellectual, rational suit of words, messages, communication. Sometimes those can be quite harsh. You want someone who can keep a cool head when you need to keep a cool head in a bad situation. Look at all the air symbols in these court cards, the birds, the clouds, the wind, butterflies. And finally, the pentacles, which is our earth suit. We can see all the agricultural things, the earthy symbols here. Life on earth, contracts, families, businesses, things like that. So that's our visual vocabulary, Lucy, and here's the reading that we are going to be doing with you today. It's going to be a 7-card reading. You can opt for the complex reading. Would you like to articulate your choice right now? Which kind of reading would you like? The 7 or the 13, my dear? We're good for either way.
I think, let's go with the 7. 7 sounds like a good number.
It is a good number. Indeed. So on the top middle is going to represent the issue we're looking at. Then we're going to have a timeline on the bottom to look at the flow of how this has played out. It's either anchored in the present and it's going to play out into the future, or it's already played out a bit and we're looking at it and having some perspective. There's advice on the top left to the negative. So let's be cautious. It might even be your default mode, but perhaps be cautious and think twice about that direction. But it would be more supportive, more helpful to move in this other direction that's represented at the top right. And then there's going to be a card towards the end that we'll choose to give us some perspective in our display. It's represented larger. When a card is in that position, it doesn't mean it's more important. It just gives us a chance to see it more clearly. But at the end, we'll pick a 7th card that will help us with some perspective. Okay. And that's our reading for today. What questions might you have?
I don't think I have any. That's been fascinating so far.
Good, good. Does anything come to mind? Are any issues that you want to look at? Sometimes we can just let it, determine what it is going to be, but it's entirely up to you how you would like to direct this.
Any issues? You mean issues that are going on in my life?
Yeah, anything that might be the topic of this reading, or we can let the cards decide and just see what they decide. It's up to you.
Oh, okay. So healing.
Okay. Let's look at that. And that's gonna we can leave that very vague, or we can leave it personal. So it could be you as the healer or you as the healee. Probably both.
It's kind of both. Yes, you're right. I'm healing at the moment from an operation, and I'm in a certification which will help me to become a healer.
Oh, well, there you go. It's all around you and inside you all at the same time. You're experiencing it very holistically, shall we say. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hand off to Kefri now, and he's going to walk you through the card process. You can see he's been shuffling this whole time.
Yeah, I have.
Thank you, Alison. And Lucy, I am shuffling, and you say stop where you want the stop to be.
Stop.
There. And how many times do you want to cut the cards if you want to cut them?
3.
3. Thank you. 1. And 2. And 3. Then I take cards from the top. And we start with the subject card, and that is the 5 of Swords. Then we go in the bottom row and take the leftmost card, that is the past, and that is the Death card. And then we go in the middle and take the present, and that is the King of Pentacles.
Kefri, I am hearing you muted right now. Is that correct?
No, I'm not muted. And then we take the rightmost card in the bottom row, and that is the future card, and that is the Empress card. And then we go up in the the left corner, in the top row, and that is the cautionary card, and that is the 2 of Pentacles. And then we go to the rightmost position, and that is the advice card, and that is the 5 of Cups. So there it is, this long. We wait with the 7th card for now.
Thank you so much. Okay, so another thing to be aware of here is that each of the major arcana corresponds to a Hebrew letter. And so I'm sure that Kefri is going to be off and running and decoding what words we can make from your 2 majors there. Kefri, would you mind putting up that 5 of Swords?
Yeah.
So Lucy, it seems like so you got 2 5s in your reading. One is your current position, one is your recommendation. And so if you are feeling kind of imbalanced and weird and a little negative and kind of right now, that would be very understandable, because this is that mode of time. This is the moment in time where you're like, I just have to get this done, or I have to power through, or it's possible that you're angry about something. It's possible that there's been an argument, but this is the culmination. So perhaps the surgery that you're going through is the culmination of something that was bothering you for a long time, and this is finally you dealing with it. And you're just being done with it now. And so that you can move on and not have to deal with it anymore. And so that has been, but it hasn't been the easiest process. And so that it bothered you for long, it probably isn't mysterious that it's bugging you now. It perhaps has a lesson for you, and it perhaps has something to do, as you contemplate this, with winning or coming away from something, and it's about extrication. You're extricating yourself from something is what I'm sensing here. And you may have had to leave something on the table to do it. You may not have gotten all of it, shall we say. You may have, but you've done as best you could to put yourself in a winning position and to move forward, because the most important thing is to engage no longer in this interaction. So you must no longer have this fight inside you or around you. It needs to be removed from you so that you can move on. And that's a big thing. And so we can see that in your trajectory as well. Kefri, would you mind putting up that past card, which is that death card? And so anytime you're in a 5, Lucy, just by the way, the 5 of Swords is the one card that's about either defeat or be defeated, is that 5 card that we were looking at a moment ago. And it's surgical, you know, it's that idea of knives and swords and finally taking it on. And so maybe you were sitting on this for a long time and you finally decided to get it done. And that was a big change for you. It meant a whole change of lifestyle. It meant, and you couldn't avoid it. It was like it came to a head and you had to deal with it. So it was like, okay, you've got, now it must be taken care of. Resistance is futile, shall we say. Perhaps this was a serious diagnosis. Perhaps you're going through a cancer diagnosis or something like that. I've done that myself, and it's a very, when you are forced to literally confront death versus theoretically confront death like we do, because we're all going to die, but it seems so far away. So all of our sacred things take a back seat. And so you can see here in this death card, as it comes through, the threat of it comes through, the emperor, he's on the ground. Resistance is futile. All his power cannot resist this particular thing. The Pope, he's there negotiating. All his religious power, it's not going to necessarily save him. It's the strength girl. She's there. She can't even look at him, right? She's got to look away. The only one who's dealing with this properly is the small child, who's kind of looking at it neutrally. So as much as you can look at this experience neutrally as a lesson, neutrally as a question for you, what can I keep? So Kefri, let's go back to that 5 of Swords, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Notice that this character who, and I don't know which of these is you, but I'm going to put it in the winner position. I'm going to put you in the position of this one who's going away, is you are able to keep most of yourself, shall we say, in this. I don't know what you've had to have removed or changed in this surgery, but it's a net positive for you. And whatever you've had to leave behind, as you move forward, you will be both lighter and better off for it. So just take heart that whatever you have lost, whatever you've had to leave behind, will not be useful to you in the future anyway, and is better off left behind, as are those people, as are those characters, as are those, I don't know, tumors, as are those voices in your head, as are those fears, as are all of those things that perhaps were harbored within you that are now out of you. You can now walk away, walk away, walk away. Let's look at that King of Pentacles, please, Kefri. Now you are in the driver's seat. Now you can relax. Now you can be comfortable in your castle. Now you can assure yourself that you have what you need. This is Taurus, by the way. You can see Taurus the bull all over this card. There's 4 Taurus the bull heads on the throne. Taurus is about having. Taurus is about where Aries is about the will, Taurus is about the atmosphere. And so the idea is that you are comfortable. You have the means to stay comfortable. And you're thinking about the means to continue on and to multiply this comfort. And you can notice that even under this gorgeous adorned mantle that this king is wearing, and notice the purity of the white lilies and red roses are all over the cards as this balance between passion and purity. So you have a balanced mind, and there's a wreath of victory, also a part of this crown. And so as a part of this journey that you have gone through, what you can now count among your possessions is that you're still alive. Number 1, you still have your life and your body. You still have your home. You still have the ability to guard yourself. You still have your immune system. Look at your armor under that cloak. You're still armored. You still have rulership over your world, which means that you make your decisions. You still have a few bucks, a few pounds in the bank, so to speak. You have a home to be in. So all in all, it's a net positive what you've gone through. What has been stripped away from your life, the changes you have gone through have left you in the position of rulership, which is not a bad thing. And so as you move into the future with the Empress, so you're now moving perhaps from this signer of the checks just came to mind, but that kind of financially responsible position is now even graduating. Kefri, let's look at that Empress, please, into an even more worldly figure of rulership. And it may be that your version of rulership has always been very masculinely defined in the past, that who it is to be a ruler has been a very masculine figure, like as represented by that King of Pentacles. Or perhaps all the rulership in your life was ceded to a masculine power, perhaps an ex-husband or a father, or traditionally in your life it's always been men who have made these decisions, or those who are more traditionally in a ruling class position. But now you may step into that ruling class position. You may step into that role. You may accept the privilege of what that represents for yourself, because it's a mindset anyway. And notice the crown on the Empress has the same laurel leaves, and now you have stars instead of flowers. So the elevation of what is on your brain has gone from what is earthly and what has been about okay, so let's say that what right now you have on money to like get some economic recovery with that King of Pentacles, but as you move into the future, your sense of what you want to do is going to be much more spiritual and much more, it's not going to be worried about money. It's going to be worried about the effect on people's lives. So the money into your life is not going to be as important as the blessing you bring into other people's lives. That's going to be your driver. So whereas the insecurity driver, as you left this 5 of Swords situation, made you hang on to the money and make sure that you had money to take care of yourself in that King of Pentacles notion, as you graduate into this Empress role, making the money is not going to be as important as how you distribute it and how you configure it and how you create things for you, yours, and the circle that you will decide to rule. So perhaps there's a nonprofit, or perhaps there's a school, or perhaps there's some kind of you mentioned the healing. And so rather than the intake of money, which is rather Taurus driven in that King of Pentacles, now we're going to go into Venus and be into this loving kindness and into this productivity and fertility phase. And so as you move into the future, it's going to be the givingness and the fertility and the beautiful femininity that's going to be the emphasis, not the locking down into a masculine role to allow you to win. So whatever masculinity allowed you to win this particular battle, now you're going to shed that armor and step into this much more comfortable garment, lay back onto your pillows, rest, number one, so that you can recover, because this is a pregnant lady and she deserves to rest right now. She needs that in order to ensure that her baby comes out safe. So do you now, as you move into the future, need to move into a phase where your recovery, your healing, your future is the focus. Let's look at how this plays out in these recommendation cards, please. So Kefri, let's look at that too. Thank you. And so this is the recommendation against, and I want us just to notice, Lucy, looking across the top row, you have this current 5 situation, and your recommendation is also a 5. And so it's recommending that rather than trying to get into balance with money, rather than trying to balance your money and maybe take a trip or do whatever, or keep the business going, which is represented by those ships, my ships are coming in and all that kind of idea, that metaphor, rather than trying to make the money you lost or whatever is this attempt to reconcile. And I don't even mean reconciling a relationship, although that might be on the brain too. So reconciliation of money or the relationship is not the priority right now. Rather than trying to see what you can do with these 2 cups, can this relationship be saved? Can this house be saved? Can this stuff be saved? I don't know. That's not really what you should be looking at right now. Those 2 things, you actually don't have control over them quite yet because you're not even looking at them right now. So you can't manage what you have yet until you look at it. So you're trying to manage something that you don't yet possess. So let's look at that 5 of Cups. So I'm going to say, you do have money. You're fine with the money. The money, you'll be able to manage the money. The money's not an issue. What has been lost is something around, perhaps there's this loss of face, loss of dignity, loss of status, loss of identity. All of those things are what perhaps is your sense of concentration right now. So this 5 is looking at what was lost. In your surgery, you're perhaps looking, if it was in any way disfiguring, you're perhaps looking at the scar and going, oh my God, what am I going to do now? Who's going to want this? Or who's going to love this? Or, you have to love it first, obviously. As you look at the financial losses, as you look at whatever the changes are you've gone through, and as you think about those things, if you continue to think about them only as loss, you will continue to stay in that weird, messed up, competitive vibe that's represented by that 5 of Swords. It's important for you to move past this 5 into a place of greater balance, which can either be represented by a 4 or by a 6 in terms of how you would flow these numbers. Flow the 5 in, the 5 is an unbalanced vibe in tarot, and it's much more balanced in 6 or in 4. 5 is an angry vibe. 5 is a resentful vibe. 5 is the vibe of force and revenge and Mars. And there's a lot of pent-up energy in a 5 that is much better spent in the harmonious 6 or the kind of tranquil 4. So in this card here, the recommendation is for you to acknowledge that it's not only those 3 that are in your life. Let's turn around and see the other 2. Do you have children?
I do.
How many?
I have 1. Am I all right just to rescue my dog for a second?
Of course. So as we look at this 5 figure here, the 3 is not the only thing that's going on. If you have children, and I think I asked you how many children you have 1? Yeah. 1 child. Okay. They're important too. It's probably a good time to talk to them. But if they have feelings, those are their feelings, not yours. And they have their own time frame, and you're not responsible for their feelings, especially if they're an adult at this point, and perhaps you waited all this time until they were an adult, and so they can deal with it. So it's time to turn around. The black cloak upon you is that grief. It's the difficulty. It's all you have taken on. It's the limitations you took on with all of you, what you have been going through, both in the changes you've gone through as well as these surgeries. It's been a heavy time. And now it's time to turn around and look at what you have left so that you can move on and go back and reconquer your castle, so to speak, find your way back across that bridge, and really find your way home into your sense of yourself. And so it's going to be important. One of our tarot group members, this is her favorite card because it represents a pivot point in her life. I don't know if you're in one of the Eileen people. Eileen has a big thing on pivoting and on metanoia and on repentance and all of these things being very semantically connected. And the idea being that at any given moment, you can pause, turn around and see what else there is in that moment and focus on what else there is in that moment. And this card encourages you to pivot and acknowledge what is left. acknowledge what you have available to you, and to move forward, and to not constantly be thinking, how can I get back to what used to be? Because what used to be is over, represented by that death card. It really isn't any longer what you can recapture. In fact, we're going to be, whatever is going to be next is going to be different. And so as you acknowledge that it's going to be different, and also acknowledge the possibility that that may be better for you, and it may represent your own freedom and ultimate rulership in that Empress card, it will be helpful to you. So I encourage you to throw off the grief and look at what's left. Recognize that you are not bereft in any way, except perhaps emotionally, but that's within your purview to turn around. And you have 2 twos within your recommendation card, one of which is represented in the 2, which is saying, don't start again with the money. If there's an issue on money, stop again with the money. The money is not what's at issue here. You are tying your emotions to the money, and you are leaving your emotions behind if you stick on this money issue. So get unstuck to the money issue and return your attention to the emotional healing, because the real healing in this reading is the emotional healing. Kefri, this is, so Lucy, this is my reading on these 6 cards right now. Kefri's going to weigh in, and then we're going to have a 7th card to take a look at. You're welcome to speak to this or just listen or do whatever you like at this point, but this is our little transition between our readers. I hope this is relevant, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Alison. I look at it and I go a bit deeper, I think, in it. And it's like you have healed yourself, Lucy, and by that you can also heal others now. That is to conclude everything that is in this set of cards, actually. And what you have been going through has given you a higher belief in something higher or a God, actually. I think there has been a process here. And for the moment, you are full of resources, and it's not necessarily money, it's more an abundance of something, of a security you feel, actually. And that security will actually open up a new door to look at life in a new way, actually. And
would you show the cards?
yeah, I can.
Thank you.
The death card first, that is that process that I was talking about, and the King of Pentacles is the abundance, and the Empress is the door here, because the secret symbol of the Empress is a door, a portal. And it's like having given love to this process you have been into, and also now being able to teach other people how to give love to a process when they are into it, and it is a hard process, will actually open up portals for them also. And that is, of course, a sort of a healing portal that is opening up here. And this has been a big deal of this thing that has been going on, first personally for you, and then later on as you have been able to see that, oh, now I know how this process is, and now I know how I could help others in this process if they are being in a similar process, actually. But you can also use this knowledge and wisdom for other cases also. It doesn't have to be exactly as what you has experiencing. And this card here, as Alison also has been into, I think those 3 persons is actually you. in this card, and one is in a desperation, and that is probably the first reaction, and the second is like, I don't give a damn of this, it will go how it goes. And then we have the bigger person that we see in the card that take up the swords and like, oh, can I do something good about this? Can I pondering what I have been going through? And that is probably what you are doing for the moment, actually. And that is also giving you this resource basis that I was talking about in the King of Pentacles here. And the cautionary card here, the 2, is that there is nothing more to balance in your situation, actually. It's nothing more to go against or go for, or it's more about this advice card, actually, to look at what has been falling and to turn around and see what is still upright. Because what is still upright also will show you the way, actually, because when this figure is turning around, he sees the bridge in this card, and this bridge are leading back over the water to his castle on the other side of the river. And that is your inner castle, of course, and the water here is your emotion. And you are able to cross your emotion if you turn around here and look at what is still up standing and what you can do with that. And I think that you have already started to do that, actually. And I think you will discover a lot of things, and also being going through how you want to help others and how you can use your own process to do that, actually. And the words here, because we have 2 major arcana here, and I can, before I reveal the 7th card, I can say that that is also a major arcana card. So we have groups of words here, and I will take them, and we can look at the 7th card later. And if we look at the Death and the Empress card, the words there, and that is, I read this like, this is what was before you came to terms and come out of this situation, actually, or come into a new thought basis. That I think the King of Pentacles is here, actually, a way of seeing all the abundance that is really in this, coming out of this situation. And going here from the Death card to the Empress, when I read this, I read it like that is going upwards. It's like when you are looking up to something higher, when you pray, or what you do with talking with something higher, so to speak. And the word here is actually that chaos can be a wealthy guardian, actually. And I think that has been what you have been experiencing in this situation, going from the other way with the Empress to the Death. That is going from top to bottom, so to speak. And I read that like that is the higher energy, how that is presenting to you, so to speak. And that is a set of words that are, the words are discuss, judge, sentence, argue, deduce, rule, govern, punish, litigate, talk over, and debate. And I read that like you have to go through this, and you have to go deep in what you have has been experiencing in this process. And I think that you are doing that. I've said it before, but I see it again here. And now bringing in the 7th card here, we suddenly get 6 groups of words actually. And I see this like this is the words that is coming when you are nearer this portal that is in the Empress card that is opening up something new actually. And here we can also look at this going from the bottom to the top, so to speak. And there we have a group of words that say Eden, era, epoch, aeon, period, and time. And it's like this has been a a, a, a period of time in your existence that has developed you immensely, I would say. And it's also the word Eden there. So it's like it's a sort of coming in contact with something more spiritual, higher. And also looking at it from top to bottom here, it is more of the word here is we will know how, perceive, understand, comprehend, and grasp. And that is what you are doing. You are grasping this situation. You are comprehending it. You are perceiving it, and you see a know-how in this, I think. And that is what is coming from a spiritual channel, so to speak, coming from top to bottom. And then we have 4 other groups of words also. And one of those groups is put on, wear, bind, decorate, and spot. And I think that's about you. And Alison was into it also. Be proud of what you have been going through and wear that with proudness and use what has been coming out of it to help you develop further, actually. And also it's another word here, and that is a biblical word that means God is my judge. And there is also another word that is, there is a hidden secret in this. And there is also another word, the last one is get, but take not. So that is the words here. And the 7th card here is actually the devil card. There is that one.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I was listening to those words that you were describing, and I wrote them down, Lucy, just because it's quite the fire hose here. But one of them was like this idea of a span of time. The other was the idea of comprehension. The third was the idea of now having evidence of it or wearing it, like battle scars. And then the other is that God is your judge. And then the other is to get or receive, but not take. So I think all of this really lends to the idea that upcoming, and so this devil card is very intimidating, but what it actually represents is kind of Capricorn. Capricorn is, what's your sign, by the way, if I may ask?
Pisces.
You're Pisces, like Kefri is a Pisces. And so you are very familiar with a watery consciousness, and you should probably watch out for the drink. And because all the waters and being in that kind of swirly thing is so comfortable, you know. But it looks like the time has come to harden up a little bit and to also recognize that people are laboring under some wrong notions, you know, and you can help them to unchain themselves. You can help people recognize the ways in which they are operating with some wrong thinking. You can help them remove these loose chains from themselves. You can help them understand the ways in which they have, and perhaps even reflecting on the ways in which these things have affected your life. In what ways have we, and any of us, let materialism and the determinations of the world of commerce, shall we say, lead us and drive us and make us do things and make us justify things and make us act in certain ways and things like this. And so what I'm getting from this, and including the words, is that you can take this on as a task, but you can take it on in a way that allows people to free themselves of this beast. You can take this beast on with the strength that you've developed, and you can help people understand that it's actually not very hard to get out from under this. It's just a rather continuous process in terms of recognizing the fallacy of one's thinking, or recognizing the ego drive within one's thinking, or recognizing the self-servingness of one's thinking and things like that. And all of those things, when we can see ourselves neutrally, we can say, oh, isn't that silly? You know, I mean, I look back on things I did last week and I'm like, God, was I crazy? You know, because otherwise I'm going to be too embarrassed with myself, I think. But a sense of humor is really helpful. And so a sense of humor is going to be helpful for you to lighten up this process for people. It's also a good one for you to have a good sense of humor about your own self at this stage in life. Har, 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 you know, isn't life full of folly? Aren't we all just fools stumbling along? Don't we all make mistakes along the way? Don't we have to deal with our demons? Don't we have to, you know, I think you even contributed to a book that kind of made fun of this whole difficult process in terms of the, you know, I'm so glad you left me, or something along those lines, is a very good kind of thumb your nose at a difficult process in order to reduce it. You know, how you can kind of, there was a Star Trek movie I saw, and there was this kind of very threatening figure, but you recognize that he's only really this big, but it was just the perspective and the big voice. But he was actually only really this big. He wasn't that threatening after all. And he's really afraid more than anything else. He was afraid of dying, and the ego is afraid of dying. And so people will really kick and scream before they give up the ego. And you can help them with that process. You can help them be gentle with themselves in acknowledging their own demons and extricating themselves from the pull and the rulership of those demons. And so, but you don't have to be a demon, nor do you have to be particularly focused on the money coming in, because it will come as long as you don't grab for it, I think. And so trust that will come, and help people with their own handling their demons. And I think that will be the greatest healing that anyone could do. If anyone could show people how to remove the chains of this devil figure, you are doing the greatest work in the world, because who should really be in that place? And let's, Kefri, let's show the Lover's card just as a contrast.
Yeah,
please.
We do that.
Because this, by the way, this is a 15. 1, 5 makes 6. And 6 is, we talked about 6 being this place of harmony, 6 being this place of angelic balance. It's the place of harmony within the tree of life. So looking at this Lover's card, you can see these two figures freely looking at this angelic figure, especially the woman. So the man is looking to the woman is looking to the angel. So how can we, through people, you are going to be like this woman for the people you work with, to help them see this larger force that is ultimately benevolent and a blessing for us, rather than a punishing God. And so let's look at this devil figure. So notice that these figures are quite unchained, but then when we get to this devil figure, it's these same people, but they've been under the thrall of this demon for so long that they've even started to grow a little tail. The lady's tail is fertility. The gentleman's tail is lust. Both of these things keep us tied to the earth. You know, we got our little cloven hoofs. We have our little horns. You know, as much as we can take those chains off, we can then return ourselves to that Eden, which was one of your words, which is that time, which is that, and again, time being the illusion, this space in one's life. You're going to show them how to recapture a space for healing. And so this healing that you're talking about is this combination of this Eden, era, epoch, time. You're going to be creating a space for them, a space for people to work this stuff out and heal from these misguided notions that are keeping them trapped into their physical maladies. As they untrap themselves from these notions, their physical maladies will be less necessary, because the lessons can be gotten in a different way. This is not to blame people for their ailments. That's because all of these are unconscious processes. But as much as you can bring to consciousness this process of unchaining, you will be doing the people a huge favor. So I see this Devil card as being a blessing for you in that you are confronting him and showing people how to do the same. Kefri, that's my story.
Yeah, and I see this Devil card like you are, Lucy, going back into the world and being able to help others in the world that is chained to something. It could be an addiction, or it could be also some form of sickness or something. It could be everything, actually, because your power is so strong with this, so you can help all type of people, and also you have the methods for it, and you have also developed them and looked at your process, what you have been going through also. And the symbol in this card that is hiding in this card is actually an all-seeing eye. And that could be the all-seeing eye of a divine force. And also our third eye, actually. And we can also see that this pentagram that is upside down on the devil's head here is pointing exactly to his third eye here. So that is the symbol of this card, the all-seeing eye. So we can say this is the guardian that was in the chaos. That was one of the words here. So that is again a showing of that, and also an assurance to you that you can make this. You can actually help people getting rid of things that are hampering their lives, be it what it is. That is what I see in this card. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this is the tarot flow, Lucy.
This is wonderful. It really speaks as well to what's happening and what's going on and what's being created. And it's like, yeah. It's fascinating. Nice. And it's, yeah. And I love the way that you have the two different readings, you know, from each of you, bringing in different things. Where do the words come from that you bring in, Kefri?
The words come from, each card is connected to a Hebrew letter. And it's the Order of the Golden Dawn that put them in the Tree of Life in a way, so they was matched with the Hebrew letters that are in the path of the Tree of Life. And if you know those letters, they also are connected to a symbol. And when you know that there is a letter in the card, you also can form the words, the Hebrew words of it, and you can translate that, and you can get it into words, actually.
Okay.
So they're kind of in these weird semantic groups that are so they're like related words, but all those first words were kind of in relation to a time frame, and the second words were kind of related to this idea of pride in your scars, wearing it proudly, and another one is having to that God is your judge, and another is that get and take not, and so. It's the major arcana. So it's the Death card, the Empress card, and the Devil. And that would give us like the Death card. What letter is the Death card? Nun. So that's the N sound. And then the Empress card is the door.
Dalet.
Okay, so N, D, and then the
Empress. The devil is the ayin.
So it's going to be Nad or Dan or things like that, or And. Or dana, things like that. And so you're looking for those words in Hebrew that would be configured like that and giving them some kind of a translation. So it's a bit of a process, but all of these things seem relevant, and I hope they're relevant to you. I certainly see you. Are you like a Reiki healer? Do you use energies, or have you gotten into any of those energy healing modalities yet?
I've done my Reiki 2. I haven't done Reiki 3, and that was many, many, many years ago. Yeah.
I met a woman from Devon who was a certified healer, and I do believe there are certifications in the UK that you can get if that were some of interest to you, because there are then professional guilds and things like that where you could get other education. our big guy that we like the books that he writes is up in the Lake Country, Marcus Katz, and he does all kinds of wonderful stuff up there. England has, UK has a time-honored tradition of esoteric development and study, and the deck that we use is a British deck. Both of the authors were Americans who grew up in Britain or who spent their lives in Britain, and so this deck and this set of images and the Golden Dawn and the Masonic traditions all are quite deeply anchored in your islands there, and so wear it all proudly. The influence of the UK on the world has been huge in terms of philosophy and influence and esoterica and all that good stuff. So keep up the honored tradition, Lucy.
I'll do my best.
Any other questions or any other things that you want to talk about today?
I don't think so. As I say, it was just very, what was coming through was very much with the, especially with the devil card. It's like, well, that's going to be interesting what you say about that and the unchaining of others through what I've been through. And this is exactly the certification that I'm getting.
Oh, wonderful.
It's going to be able to unchain others from their haunting memories.
Oh, how wonderful. What is the certification, if I may ask?
It is called Trauma Memory Resolution.
Wonderful. Well, may you have much success with that. There are so many people who are, as we become more sensitive, we also become more sensitive to the things we've gone through, and then they become that much bigger in our lives. And so if you can help release people from those chains, that will be a huge blessing you can offer to them. And in doing, you do that for yourself as well.
Yeah.
So I thank you for joining us. You're welcome to come back in a few months to get a little update and see what's happening. And I didn't mention this at the top of the show, so to speak, but I'm going to be starting an esoteric school with classes and this kind of thing for those who are inclined and want to learn to use this tool and who would like this as an adjunct to their coaching and things like that. So I wish us both luck in supporting people with their healing and growth and development in this new age, and hope to see you again soon.
It's been wonderful. Thank you both so very much.
Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you, Lucy Dutton, for joining us here. Kefri Scarabus, thank you for joining us on the Tarot Flow Show. And everybody, we look forward to seeing you the next time. And thank you for being with us here today. See you soon.